Well, here we are once again. This is almost becoming a weekly thing, isn't it? Welcome to it. Live stream here, Traveler Updates with the Jeff Does Vegas podcast, streaming live on Facebook. Thanks to everybody who's jumping on here to watch here this afternoon, and anybody who happens to be jumping on over the next little while, whether you're watching it live or whether you're watching it on demand. However it is you're watching it, I appreciate you taking the time to jump on here today. It's a big one. Lots of stuff to talk about, lots of stuff to share. That's why I felt it necessary to actually jump on here today. I thought, people are going to have questions. People maybe are going to have some comments, maybe some concerns, whatever it is. We have got some stuff to talk about. Before we get to the important stuff, though, I'm going to take this opportunity to do a little bit of shilling, which I did during last week's live stream. Thanks to everybody who has taken the time to check out Vegas Book Club. I told you I was going to shill. Vegas Book Club. You can go to the website at jeffdoesvegas.com. If you're looking to do some reading about Vegas, I've had some very cool authors on the podcast over the last couple of years, and I thought, you know what, it'd be good to give those guys some love and get their books out there. So you can certainly jump on the website at jeffdoesvegas.com, hit the Vegas Book Club link at the top of the page, and go check it out. You can actually order all those books, full disclosure, because I believe I'm legally obligated to tell you these things. I'm an Amazon affiliate, which means that if you order one of these books through the link, I get a little bit of a kickback, which is kind of fun on that. If you happen to be traveling to Vegas anytime in the next little while, not you Canadians, I'll get to that in a minute. But if you are headed to Vegas in the next little while and you need to get your hands on hotel rooms, shows, which are slowly starting to come back, tours, attractions, all that kind of stuff, if you go to the website at jeffdoesvegas.com and you click on the vegas.com link at the top and you make a purchase through my link, you will get yourself, you'll get yourself some deals, and I'll get a little bit of support off of that, which is something that I really do appreciate you doing. There is that. And then also the official Jeff Does Vegas gear is now available as well. Also, another fun way to support the podcast. If you want to show off your love for the podcast, you can absolutely go to the website at jeffdoesvegas.com, click on the official gear link, and go and purchase yourself some official Jeff Does Vegas gear. We've got t-shirts, we've got backpacks, we've got hats, we've got mugs. We even have the obligatory face masks. So if you want to show your love for the podcast and stay safe, you can do that via the website and the gear links. So today's a big day, and I don't want to say I told you so, but I did kind of tell you so. I think it was last week. I think it was last Thursday, last Friday, when I jumped on here with another a live stream to tell you, listen, kids, I think there's some big stuff coming down. Sorry, I'm playing with this microphone. It's giving me grief. I think there's some big stuff coming down involving travel. I didn't really have a ton of evidence surrounding that other than some cryptic tweets from the Prime Minister of Canada saying, Canadians, you need to cancel your travel. Don't book anything. Get home if you are away. I kind of said, okay, listen, kids, based on my experience working in the airline industry and seeing kind of where things were at a year ago and what was going on last year, not around this time, a little bit later on in the year, I was like, listen, guys, all I can say is this. If you're Canadian and you are thinking of booking a trip to Las Vegas, don't. If you have one booked, expect it to be canceled potentially, or be prepared to cancel it. And if you are a Canadian, get your ass home ASAP. Today, this is a big deal for the Canadians in the audience. And I know there's a lot of you. There's lots of Canadians that follow my podcast. And this is a big deal for you guys. And trust me, I get the frustration of not being able to travel to Las Vegas. I am right there with you. I haven't been since January of last year. That is the longest stretch I've gone without a Vegas vacation in like the last 6 years. So I'm right there with you. Trust me. And I know some of you have been to Las Vegas. I haven't been to Las Vegas. Anyways, today, big announcement coming out. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Canadian Prime Minister, announced several new travel restrictions that are going to be coming into effect very shortly and are going to affect Canadians in a big, bad way. Now, I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on some of this stuff here. Canada has had travel restrictions in place since last March, when all of this really kind of started to go down. We've had restrictions in place since then. The federal government issued travel advisories advising against non-essential international travel. Don't leave the country if you absolutely positively do not have to. There is the possibility that things will change while you are away and you will be stranded. You may be stuck wherever you happen to be. That's a possibility. So those restrictions have been in place for close to a year, as have mandatory quarantine requirements for people. I'm talking about 2-week quarantines when you arrive home from international travel. Basically, you are supposed to stay where you are. You have to submit a plan. You have to tell the Canadian Border Services Agency what your quarantine plan is, where you're going to be staying. Are you going to be staying with anybody? How are you going to handle groceries and meals and all of that kind of stuff? These are all things that you have to answer. So Canada has had these restrictions in place for the last almost year. Now, something that has come up, a discussion that's come up, a question that's come up is, why don't they just ban international travel? Because as I explained during last week's live episode or live stream, the government of Canada cannot. We have in our Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Section 6, and I've looked into this enough in the last while because, listen, I'm not going to say I'm a constitutional lawyer expert because clearly I'm not. But what I am going to say is that we have the freedom of movement in Canada. We have the freedom to be able to leave the country. It is up to other countries to tell us that we can't go there. This is how polite we are as Canadians, people. We will not tell our own citizens they can't go places. We will just say, listen, you can leave if you want to, but we're going to leave it up to the other people to tell you whether or not you can or can't come in. So there you go. Anyway, so that's been a thing for the last while. As such, a lot of people over the last year have just simply sucked it up and said, you know what? If I have to lock myself in my basement for 2 weeks when I get home, then, well, so be it. I have to lock myself in my basement for 2 weeks when I get home. Big deal. As of today, Canadian government making it a whole lot more difficult for Canadians to travel, to jump around, to travel internationally. Not so much the traveling. Well, yeah, the traveling internationally is going to be a problem. Coming home is also going to be a bit of a problem for you. Not so much a problem. A majorly expensive inconvenience is kind of where things are at. So I'm just going to run through. Earlier today, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, during his daily COVID briefing, he came out and he basically announced there are going to be a whole bunch of travel restrictions that are going to be coming into effect shortly here in Canada, some of which start as early this weekend, some of which we're not 100% sure on start dates as of yet. Once I get more information on that, I will share those start dates. So let's just start kind of with the big one. And this doesn't really affect Vegas travelers per se, but it does affect anybody who happened to be deciding they wanted to travel and leave the country, maybe to get away to a nice sunny destination to escape the freezing cold that we've got. As of Sunday, I put January 30th. January 31st is Sunday. 30 days have September, April, June, and November, all the rest of 31. Yeah, okay. January 31st. Ignore that thing that says January 30th. Canada's major airlines, including WestJet, Air Canada, Air Transat, and Sunwing, are going to be suspending all their flights to so-called sun destinations. And I also spelt destinations wrong. My God, I think, you know what, folks, I think I need to lay off the Baileys in the morning. Listen, I'm unemployed. I'm not working right now. Don't judge me. All right. So we'll go back to the slide, even with all the errors on it. So effective January 31st, Canada's major airlines are going to be, I can't stop looking at it now. Sun destinations. I'm such a spelling and grammar Nazi too. I can't believe that got by me. Spelled Caribbean right though. Which includes the Caribbean and Mexico. Essentially, those flights are going to be canceled. So, those flights are going to be done. You are not going to be able to travel from Canada, anywhere in Canada, down to Mexico, the Caribbean, Bahamas, any of those places. If you are currently in one of those places, the airline is going to work with you to get you home back to Canada as soon as possible and as safely as possible. So if you happen to be a person who's in one of those sun destinations, can't believe I did that, the airline is going to be reaching out to you. Now, I'll take you a little bit behind the curtain. I was working for one of those airlines last year when all of this started to go down. Essentially what happened was the airlines canceled all of their southbound flights. They still flew planes down there to try to get people back. Now, I know last year there were a lot of people down south because they kind of all got caught out on this. A lot of people weren't expecting the hammer to come down. The government's been saying for almost the last year, don't travel outside of the country if you don't have to. And for the last week, the government has been dropping hints that there's going to be some serious crap coming down. So I'm assuming the numbers of people that are down there are not quite as crazy as they were last year. However, what is going to happen is they're going to run flights down to bring people back. They're going to run planes down empty to bring people back on those planes. They want you to come home. Now, once those flights are done, I will guarantee you that they are done. That is it. Okay? There is going to be a certain percentage of people, and I know this from last year, there is going to be a certain percentage of people who say, screw it. You know what? I want to stay in Mexico or the Bahamas or wherever it is they happen to be. Those people, you know what? If you want to stay there, go ahead and stay there. But you are accepting the risks of staying there by staying there. What are those risks including? Well, those risks are including that you may be stuck there for months. So unless you are one of the lucky folks who maybe has a house in Mexico or you have a home somewhere in the Caribbean that you are staying at and you can be there for a long period of time, cool. Stay there. Just keep an eye on your insurance, keep an eye on your health insurance, your travel insurance, all of that kind of stuff. Just be aware of all of that because there is the potential for things to go very badly for you. I'm just going to leave it at that. Now, I'm also going to throw this out here. If you decide that you are going to stay there and you want to stay down there, and that's cool. Again, it comes down to the whole thing of y'all are grown-ass adults capable of making your own decisions. Okay? You can all make your own decisions about whether or not you want to stay, whether or not you want to come home, whatever. Totally up to you. I do not want to see a single one of you SOBs whining on social media or complaining to the news, oh, I'm stranded in Mexico and they didn't do anything to get me home. Bullshit. They're doing lots to get you home. They're working their rear ends off to get you home. And again, my own experience from working in the airlines, I know what's going on right now. The operations centers of those airlines, the people working in there are losing their freaking minds right now. One, because they are going to bust their asses to do their best to get you on a plane and get you home back to Canada safe and sound ASAP, like tomorrow, if at all possible. Okay? That's what they're doing. Number one. Number two, they're all worried about their jobs. I know that. Trust me. They're concerned about their jobs. But their number one concern is for your safety. So again, if you choose to ignore that, you are accepting the consequences of what you are doing down there. If you decide you're going to stay, you're staying. and you're staying until you can get home. Back in December, there was a news story I saw about this lady who, she was an elderly lady. She'd gone to Mexico back last March. She actually left after things started to go, or looked like they were starting to go a little bit sideways. She was stranded down there until like November or December, stranded in Mexico. She got worried when her health insurance ran out because she'd been there for too long. That was when she started getting concerned. Don't be that person. Okay. Again, I do not want to see any of you SOBs on the news or on social media whining about how you are stuck and stranded down wherever. I don't want to hear about it. So anyway, coming back to all of that, as of Sunday, Air Canada, WestJet, Sunwing, Air Transat, canceling all their flights to these sun destinations. So if you are currently down there, they're going to work with you to get you home. If you have a trip planned to go down between sometime now and April 30th, which is when these restrictions are currently planned to come to an end. So this is a pretty long period of time, February, March, April. So 3 full months that this is going to be down there. If you have one of these planned, a trip to one of these spots planned, be prepared to have that canceled. Okay. I can't speak to anything as far as credits or refunds or any of that stuff. That is well outside my realm of responsibility. It's like, as I used to like to say, way above my pay grade. So there you go. So that's a big thing. Let's see if we can spot any more travel or any more spelling errors on my slides here. So, no, looks good. Also, beginning next week, this is going to be kind of a big one. All international flights bound for Canada are only going to be permitted to arrive at 4 specific airports. And those airports are Vancouver International, Calgary International, Pearson International in Toronto, and Montreal International Airport. So if you had, I got to be honest with you, I kind of thought that was already happening. I know that it was happening at one point, and I'm questioning or wondering whether or not that was changed at some point by the government to allow flights to come back. So again, if you are from Winnipeg or you're from Regina, which I just like to say because my American friends get a kick out of it whenever I say yes, there's a city named Regina, and it's pronounced the way it sounds. If you were from one of those cities and you had an international flight coming back to, say, Winnipeg or to Regina from, I don't know, Minneapolis or something like that, that's not going to be a thing anymore. You are going to be diverted to go to Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, or Montreal. That is where you're going to be, which brings us to our next wonderful little bit of information. And this is a big one. This is big. I've bolded some letters here because I felt that this was important for you guys to be aware of. So all international arrivals, and this is going to be happening in the coming weeks here. We don't have a date on this one as of yet that I've seen anyways. They're trying to get some of this in place to get this all figured out. But if you fly into one of those airports, Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, or Montreal, as you will be required to do, when you arrive in Canada, you will be required to take a COVID-19 test upon arrival in Canada. This is in addition to the pre-flight testing requirement that came into effect back a couple of weeks ago, where you now have to have a negative COVID test 72 hours, taken within 72 hours of travel. Not the results back within 72 hours, but the test itself taken within 72 hours, the results back before they will let you board the plane. So again, when you arrive in Canada, you're going to have a COVID-19 test. You are also going to have that test prior to departure from wherever it is you're coming in from. So if you're flying back from Vegas, guess what? You got to get that test in Las Vegas, which, as I looked at last week, ranges anywhere in price from like $150 US all the way up to $350 US. You're going to have that done. And then you're also going to get a swab up the nose, I believe, or maybe down the throat, when you arrive here in Canada. up the nose, down the throat doesn't sound so bad when you compare it to the story we saw coming out of China this week, where they said they're now doing anal COVID tests. I don't mean to laugh because it's not funny, but it is. And when I got to say, when that first came up, the only thing I could think of, I'm a big fan of the TV show Scrubs, and they did a musical episode, one of the seasons. I think it was the 3rd or 4th season. They did a musical episode. And one of the songs they did was called Everything Comes Down to Poo, where they say that every test, everything they do, every disease they test for can be found in poop. So apparently that applies to COVID testing too. Might make the drive-through testing a little bit awkward, but anyways, moving right along. I'm sorry. I'm just, I'm laughing at these situations. They're not funny, but I'm at that point in my life where I have to laugh, because if I don't, I'm going to go nuts. Here's the fun one. And when I say fun, I mean horrible. All international travelers coming into Canada, regardless of where you're from, doesn't matter where you're coming in from, all international travelers will be required to quarantine at a government-designated hotel until they receive the result of their arrival test, which could take up to 3 days. This is going to be at your expense. As the traveler, this will be at your expense. And the number being bandied around here is $2,000 per person. Pardon my French for what I'm about to say here, but they are not fucking around with this, okay? So imagine you're a family of 4 who decides, you know what, screw it, we can deal with the quarantine, blah, 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 whatever. Your family of 4, you're currently on your little Mexico vacation, let's say, and you have to come back, or you come back, and this is in effect. It is now going to cost you an additional $8,000. And you're going to be in a hotel room, not in a hotel, but in a hotel room for potentially up to 3 days. So this is basically until you get the results of your COVID test that you've had done at the airport. Okay. So I'm just going to I'll sort of run you through the whole process in the way I'm picturing it anyways. So you get in, you get off the plane, you make your way to customs, you do your whole thing there. You have that whole internal monologue of, oh my God, what if I accidentally have a gun? We've all had that when we've gone through customs or airport security. You get through customs, you pick up your stuff, you come out of Canada Customs, out of the customs hall, you go through a lineup, you get swabbed up the nose, down the throat, up the butt. Hopefully not the same swab for all 3 spots. After that, you get on a bus, I'm assuming. I don't know if they're going to do this by buses or if they're just going to do it by, the honor system, which has worked out so well for us so far. They will then take you to one of these designated quarantine hotels where you will check in and you will go into your room until you get your result from that test at the airport, which could take upwards of 3 days. And again, you are going to be billed $2,000 per person for that time in the hotel. It's insane. $2,000 a person. Now, and I will guarantee you are not staying at a high-end luxury resort for that amount of money. They are putting you wherever they can get rooms, and they'll have specifically designated hotels that they are putting people in, which is totally reasonable. They have to essentially take over the entire hotel because not only they have to stagger the rooms, they have to keep people away from each other. They have to hire security. They're going to be bringing you food. It's going to be room service, all that kind of stuff. Essentially, that's what they're going to be doing. That's what you're getting for $2,000 a person for a 3-day stay in a hotel. So that's the thing. Now, here's the big question. What happens after you get this test result? Okay, well, if your arrival test is negative, You will then spend the remainder of your mandatory 14-day quarantine at home under increased monitoring, such as online check-ins and security checks. Government of Canada has said that they are going to be watching people like a hawk, essentially. So you will proceed to wherever you are going, whether that's home. Now, this is one of those things that I haven't seen addressed yet. Maybe I just have missed it because I was trying to prep for this, and clearly part of my prep was not checking for spelling errors, but I still can't believe I did that. I don't know what happens if you are traveling onward. For example, if you live in Regina and you've flown into Calgary, will they then let you get on an airplane and carry on to your final destination where you will quarantine? Or will you be required to stay in that quarantine hotel for the full 2 weeks until you are able to get home? This is a question I haven't seen addressed yet, and I'm guessing that it's something that will come up in the next few hours or couple of days as this starts to sink in for everyone. So that's a thing that's going to happen. So as I say, if your arrival test is negative, you're going to spend the remainder of your mandatory 14-day quarantine at home under increased monitoring, including online check-ins and security checks. The Canadian government has said that essentially they are going to they're going to be following, they're going to have increased surveillance on people. They are going to have public health checking in. They've authorized the police forces to actually check on people. I'm assuming they're going to phone people. I know, as I say, the online check-in thing, my wife actually has to do twice a day when she's at work. It's a fit for work thing. She has to do it once in the morning, and then she has to do it once partway through the day. And it's just an online thing where you just answer some questions. So that's a thing that they're probably going to be doing. Now, here's the other thing as well, and this is something that came up after I put this together. Canada's Chief Public Health Officer, Dr. Theresa Tam, and I'm reading this off of a report here, has said that anybody returning who's quarantining for 14 days is going to have to be swabbed on day number 10 as well. And I know that they say that that's something that they do because the virus can incubate. The incubation period can be that length of time. So they'll check you on day number 10 as well to see if you didn't test positive when you arrived at the airport, if you didn't test positive before you got on the plane 72 hours prior, if you didn't test positive when you got to the airport, that doesn't mean that you couldn't test positive 10 days later. So they've said that they're going to be swabbing people at day number 10. Again, I don't know if that's going to be nasal, throat, or exit only. I don't know. Again, I laugh. It's a coping mechanism. Okay, folks, please don't be offended. If I'm upsetting you, please, I don't mean to upset you. This is how I deal with bad stuff, is by making tasteless jokes. So there you go. Welcome to my world of my life. Now, what happens if your arrival test is positive? Well, that opens up an entirely different can of worms. If your arrival test is positive, you are going to be transferred to a different government designated and approved facility for the remainder of your 14-day quarantine period. As soon as you say government designated / approved facility, the tinfoil hat crowd starts freaking out, right? They get worried. They get concerned, like, oh my God, it's like, it's COVID camps. It's COVID concentration camps. Oh my God. Listen, folks, there are already people who are in these so-called government quarantine facilities. They're hotels. That's what they're in. They're in hotels. Again, you're not staying at the Four Seasons. You're not staying at a high-end, highfalutin, fancy schmancy, all-inclusive resort. You're staying at a hotel. Could be any hotel, but they want to move you and get you away from all of the other travelers who maybe are not negative, so they just want to get you out of the facility. So anyways, We got more details coming. This is the interesting and the fun thing about all of this stuff is the details are constantly changing. Things are always evolving. Things are always moving. It's sometimes hard to stay on top of this stuff. And I know I'm that guy that is quite analytical and can kind of break stuff down really well for people. I like to think I am anyways. So I just wanted to jump on here and try to lay some of this out for all of you guys. Listen, as I said earlier, you know, you're all grown-ass adults capable of making your own decisions. If you make the decision to travel at this point with all of the restrictions that are in place, this is the other thing too. I mean, traveling to the U.S., you still have, the U.S. now has the requirement for a negative COVID test in effect, right? So you have to get that test prior to traveling to the U.S. 72 hours before departure. You need your results. You need your test, and then you need your results in order to board the flight. So that's a thing that has to happen. There is talk in the U.S. of putting in a mandatory quarantine requirement, which I would imagine they will handle very similarly to what Canada is doing, where they will just say, okay, we've got 10 airports where we can fly, people can land internationally, and that's going to be it. You're going to land in that city and you're going to go to a quarantine facility or hotel at your expense for upwards of 2 weeks. I think the CDC requirement for quarantine is 10 days. So that's what will happen. That's where you'll go, will be one of those places potentially. So that's the thing. And then to come home, you've got the quarantine test or the COVID test that you have to get done. Then when you land, you've got another test that you have to get done. Then you've got a quarantine in a hotel for upwards of 3 days at a cost of $2,000 per person. Then you've got the 14-day quarantine. Like, if all of this doesn't dissuade you from traveling, first of all, good for you. You have got a level of commitment to something that I could not have for anything in any part of my life. You have a level of commitment that I just simply, I don't have. So good on you. Congratulations for that. But in all seriousness, if all of that doesn't dissuade you from traveling, you need to be prepared to deal with the consequences of traveling. And if that means that you are stuck in a foreign country, whether that's the US or whether that's somewhere else around the world, if that is one of the consequences of that, then so be it. You are there and you need to learn to deal with it. Simple as that. It's simply put. I will just say that. That's really all I can do. So as I say, basically, just be prepared to deal with the consequences of travel. But in the meantime, I really just wanted to get everybody on here, or get on here with everybody, and just lay out exactly what was going on and what was announced today. We've known this stuff has been coming for at least a week, if not longer. We've heard all of the rumors and the rumblings of what may be coming down. So we've heard about all of this for the last little while. And now here it is, and people are upset about it. And I get it. Again, listen, we're all tired of the bullshit. We're tired of this. I'm so over all of this. There is nothing I would love more than to travel right now. I would love, see that picture of the strip, of the Vegas Strip behind me right there? See that photo? I would love to be there right now. That's where I would love to be. I would love to be visiting my family, hanging out with my nieces and my nephew, playing some road hockey with my nephew, playing peekaboo with my niece that doesn't involve me playing peekaboo over frickin' Zoom. We're all at that stage right now. I want a haircut so badly. Look at this ridiculous thing that I've got going. This is the dumbest thing ever. But you know what? I'm staying home. I'm doing my best to keep myself safe. I'm doing my best to keep others safe. And that's all we can do right now. This travel stuff that's going on, for the most part, I mean, listen, I don't mean to shit all over travel, okay? I know that there are people who need to travel for actual legitimate reasons, whether that's to see family members who may not be doing so well, or if it's for work, that you're traveling for work. I get that. There's a lot of that, but for those that just decide, you know what, I'm gonna screw off and go to Hawaii for a vacation, or I'm gonna escape to Mexico or the Caribbean or somewhere like that. Cool. You deal with the consequences of that at this point, and whether that's the financial consequences of having to pay for tests or shell out $2,000 a person to spend 3 days at a Best Western, not to shit all over Best Western, but to stay at a Best Western at the Vancouver airport for 3 nights, because that's how long you have to quarantine until you get your COVID test when you get home. Listen, you live with that. That is your responsibility. I have zero sympathy for you if you're stuck or you're stranded for something like that. No sympathy at all. Whew. I got a little preachy near the end, didn't I? I didn't mean to. Sometimes I get so worked up. I get so aggravated with all of this stuff. I'm getting a headache. In the meantime, now that I'm done yelling at you, I will just give you a quick update on what's coming up in the next couple episodes of the podcast. New episode dropping on Monday featuring my conversation with Danny Elizabeth, legit Vegas showgirl, performer in Jubilee and Crazy Girls. Had a great conversation with Danny. That episode comes out on Monday. A week from Monday, I am chatting with Steve White, who is one half of the Travel Zork podcast, Zorkcast. He is Las Vegas, UK on Twitter. He is the UK expert, the Vegas expert from the UK, appearing on that podcast. That is going to be happening on February the 8th. You watch for that new episode. Got some irons in the fire for a couple of other really cool episodes. So all of that is coming up. Doing my best to try to keep a travel podcast going in a time when travel just got a hell of a lot more expensive. In the meantime, everybody, I just ask you to stay safe, stay healthy, keep yourselves out of trouble, and please, that's all I can ask of you. All right? Have yourself a wonderful day, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Bye.